First player from Taiwan, the rookie aggro star. Please welcome SamuelTsao. And his opponent, one of the most storied players in Hearthstone history. Please welcome Kolento.
Kolento versus SamuelTsao.
Kolento is a really revered player, and I have watched a lot of his streams.
I don't recall too many games I watched from SamuelTsao.
Everybody in the Hearthstone community has a lot of respect for him, including myself.
Other players say he might be misplaying sometimes. I mean, it doesn't matter. If he misplays, I'll have a better chance. If he doesn't, it's all good. Good show.
Kolento versus SamuelTsao. Let's see what you got.
Kolento versus SamuelTsao. A winner will face off against Muzzy in a stacked Group B. But if you look at the entire field of finalists here, every group is a group of death. As you take a look at the deck lineups, you kind of talked about a little about SamuelTsao. Anything stands out to you about Kolento's lineup here?
Kolento has a pretty typical lineup for this tournament. He's chosen the Jade Druid as his fourth deck alongside the Control Warlock, Highlander Priest, and Tempo Rogue that makes up the core of so many players' lineups here. SamuelTsao, we mentioned that his Zoo Warlock was the only one in the entire tournament. Kolento recognized it was a strong deck against his lineup, chose to ban it.
Whew. I see green all over the place. Kolento is going to open up on his Jade Druid, SamuelTsao on his Aggro Druid. Now, this matchup has changed significantly because Jade Druids add a lot more anti-aggro tools. One of them is the new card from Kobolds and Catacombs, Ironwood Golem. 4-mana 3/6 taunt minion. But it's not just that, it's also pairing it with Oaken Summons, which also helps pull it out of your deck.
Yeah, perhaps the more important is the Spellstone. We actually saw in our first match of the day, Doc Pone was able to use his Jasper Spellstones very effectively to slow down the aggression from Hoy. And in that case, the underdog was able to win that matchup in part due to that. Here, the roles are sort of reversed. SamuelTsao here is the aggressive deck, and certainly considered the underdog against Kolento.
That's right. And Kolento, doesn't want to get too terribly greedy, recognizing that he needs to address the aggressive board, throws away the Nourish, but keeps Wild Growth and Jade Blossom, two of the highest win rate cards in Jade Druid.
Yeah, the early ramp does allow Kolento to potentially get out his defensive tools like Jade Behemoth and Spreading Plague, two of the cards that really help quite a bit against the small minions that the aggro druid is going to bring to bear. But there is no early removal in Kolento's hand, so SamuelTsao has his options as to what he wants to play on the first turn, along with that Mark of Yasharaj, which we saw Hoy really struggle to land on his minions in the earlier match.
Yeah, Mark of Yasharaj is a huge, important piece for aggro druid to get their footing. And we've seen aggro druids start without it. Almost every game that aggro druids hasn't been able to land it, they've completely struggled or just got dominated.
And SamuelTsao has a couple of interesting options here, because if Kolento does have Wrath in his hand, he could remove a single turn 1 beast. But yes, he's going to go ahead and coin out both of them. So this ensures that even if Kolento has Wrath to answer an early minion, that he will still have Mark of Yasharaj with a target in order to get things going on his side.
Now, Kolento picks up a second Wild Growth. This is actually kind of a problem if you think about it, because he actually needs real substance to play after he's done ramping. He actually didn't need this whatsoever. So while that might look normally good against a lot of the slower decks, this is going to be a disaster if Kolento can't answer a Mark of Yasharaj minion for several turns.
Yeah, and Kolento has no real tools to fight back just yet. He has his own minions. For instance, he can play a Fandral next turn, but Mark of Yasharaj on this Dire Mole is even out of swipe range. So the 5 health there from the initial 1/3 body ends up putting a very, very difficult body into play that Kolento's going to struggle with. It's actually something that I had forgotten from the Bahamas, just quite how deliberate a player SamTsao is. We saw him playing aggressive decks, but definitely taking his time and weighing all of his options each turn. And despite having what seems to be a pretty clear play of the Mark of Yashiraj, he's definitely thinking ahead and figuring out how he wants to potentially respond to different plays Kolento could make as well.
Yes, SamuelTsao is very similar to Doc Bone. He's playing Hearthstone on the side. He's primarily a university student, taking his time to really think out his plays. He chooses to go instead for this mark on the Chanted Raven. And, I'm curious what he's really thinking about that, too.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by that decision because getting the buff on the minion with higher health makes it much sturdier against the damage-based removal that the Druid deck is capable of. We even just see the Spellstone drawn here. If that Spellstone is upgraded, that deals 4 damage. That can kill the 4/4. It would not be able to kill a 3/5 if he had gone on the Dire Maul. We see some Kolento fans in the crowd. Definitely quite a few of them.
Oh, absolutely. And there is only one of them, or actually one Godlento, excuse me, as I think a lot of people have largely looked for Kolento as a guiding compass for a lot of decks. You look at all the way from back then Miracle Rogue in 2014, and now you look at the Kingsbane Rogue, Kolento's innovating and really pushing a lot of those decks to the forefront.
Yeah, this is really a clash of old guard versus new. SamuelTsao is about as new a competitor on the scene as they come, whereas Kolento, he competed in the 2014 World Championship. Even before the 2014 World Championship, he was well known for a string of tournament victories.
Yeah, SamTsao introduced with the turn 3 South Sea Captain and kind of thinking about what he wants to do going into turn 6. Turn 6 is where Jade Druid really finds its stride. It can hit Jade Behemoth, we see in the hand. Aya Blackpaw, one of the highest win rate cards in Druid in general. And then Spreading Plague is also on the back of his mind as well. Like, if I put Spreading Plagues, how will the combat look? Because I have double Quarter Creeper. Will I be able to line it up accordingly? The trade, I think, just in case your opponent has Swipe, wants to remove that possibility.
And there is the swipe drawn by Kolento here.
It would have been really important because Swipe and the Spellstone would have cleared off most of the board if Kolento chose that route. He still has the Jade Behemoth here as kind of what he was originally looking at, but this board is starting to get a little scary because of the threat of Power of the Wild and Mark of the Lotus.
Yeah, definitely have to be at the forefront of Kolento's mind in terms of exactly how he wants to try and mop up these threats here. He does have, as you mentioned, the Swipe plus Spellstone to clear off most of the board. It would leave just a Dire Maul and Patches if he decides to kill the captain as well.
And because of the kill on the South Sea Captain, Quarter Creeper now available for this turn.
And it is worth noting that if SamuelTsao had played this a little bit differently, had buffed the Dire Maul, he could have attacked maybe a little bit differently in the middle there and had a higher attack minion in play because it wouldn't have been vulnerable to the swipe.
That's true, although the Chanted Raven would have probably got sniped a lot earlier.
It's possible that the Raven could have been killed by a Spellstone, and he would have had to potentially, say, attack Patches in or the Raven in to protect his 3/5 from swipe, depending on the Jade.
That's really interesting, yeah. I wonder how the damage would have shaped up. It could be very similar, but also could have been the difference whether or not SamuelTsao had a more resilient board right now.
What to do?
Quarter Creeper, the most powerful minion that you can stack for this turn. This is going to the Malfurion the Pestilence, so you want to try and stack against the 1/5s.
There's the Golem that you mentioned. Ironwood Golem does have another taunt body available to Kolento here. Could play this along with Wild Growth or using his hero power if he wants to try and chip away a little bit at the board here. Or the Jade Behemoth is another 3/6 taunt he can play that comes along with the Jade, which can help trade into the Quarter Creeper potentially and sets up double 4 cost plays in the following turn.
Yeah, the thing about Wild Growth is it doesn't even open up his future play for the next turn. He would be at 9 mana, and he still couldn't play the Fandral and the Jade Behemoth. He would have to draw something specifically. And the 3 mana is a little bit of an awkward spot for Druid. Not really many things would line up very nicely. Now, if he had Ultimate Infestation to hand, completely different discussion. This is where Jade Druid struggles. Needs to just survive a little bit longer, but SamuelTsao has Cobalt Scalebanes. waiting in the shadows here. So even if Kolento stabilizes a little bit, he's still going to take a lot of heat.
Yeah, so the Golem plus hero power does make the Behemoth Wild Growth or Behemoth Hero Power available next turn. This does give SamuelTsao an ability to clear this on board with no threat toward him in terms of getting his Corridor Creeper cleared, which the Jade Behemoth would have potentially allowed. This is much stronger against any kind of AoE buff, though, which I think is one of the big things that Kolento has in mind.
You can set up a pretty wide and strong board here this turn if you kill off the Ironwood Golem, have Crypt Lord, Corridor Creeper, and Enchanted Raven. Or you can set up the Scalebane, which is, if your opponent can't contest it now that they've used Swipe and one of the Spellstones, makes it a lot harder to remove to stay at the board.
Yeah, there are actually quite a few options available for SamuelTsao here. And the Scalebane does give him potentially the strongest board against the threat of a Spreading Plague, just 2 big minions. But there is, as you mentioned, the opportunity to go wide here. He may think, okay, well, we didn't see a Spreading Plague now. It means it's potentially not that likely there is one. Also sets up this very strong Crypt Lord as well.
Just 13 damage onto the board. Kolento knows that just a single buff could potentially be game-ending here. Aya Blackpaw is fantastic for stats and damage. He's going to actually kind of need to have Aya on the board in order to even win back even start to threaten to win the game.
Yeah, the Behemoth doesn't really stop very much right now. Is one of the big problems. It gets run over pretty handily by these Corridor Creepers. The Wild Growth does mean that Ultimate Infestation is a potential draw for Kolento here. Living Mana, the draw for SamuelTsao. I actually imagine he doesn't want to play that here. I think that the Cobalt Scalebane is likely more attractive because it means that his board is stronger against a potential Spreading Plague, and he's so far ahead that a Spreading Plague stopping pretty much his entire board feels like the only way he's potentially going to struggle to win. One of the things SamuelTsao has to be considering here is what does the board look like if Kolento plays an Ultimate Infestation next turn. He has just ramped to 10 mana, so Scalebane sets up a board full of potentially just significant threats, multiple significant threats, and
this does allow SamuelTsao to also potentially get a big buff on a Corridor Creeper and threaten to push game-ending damage. He's able to stack it just enough.
Jade Idol, that doesn't do anything here. Kolento did not find the Spreading Plague he needed, and I don't see a way out. Neither does Kolento. Game 1 goes to SamuelTsao.
SamuelTsao able to strike down the Jade Druid, and Aggro Druid finally able to show some life there. We're struggling a little bit in the win rates throughout the beginning of the day, but with a big win off of Muzzy early in the previous series, and now SamuelTsao, and I believe Hoy was able to grab one. Seems like it's finally catching up to, at least relative to how much popularity it has.
Yeah, it has really seemed to look unimpressive in a lot of these games, but SamuelTsao able to really get the pressure going, and Kolento just didn't have the answer.
Yeah, well, SamuelTsao charmed all of us in the Bahamas and delivered perhaps the most famous line of the season. Check it out. Well, he did it once. Can he do it again? And up against Kolento, one of the most fearsome opponents, as we had game 1 in the books with Aggro Druid taking over Jade Druid. Aggro Druid slightly favored, though, so there shouldn't be too much of a disappointment for Kolento. Now we start entering what matchup should be difficult for the Rogue, but I feel like Rogue has a lot of game against the Priest, even though statistically it feels like this is one of Priest's better matchups.
We have seen Tempo Rogue so far today do quite well against Priest. The Rogue is just able to generate lots of boards that can be very difficult and provide a lot of pressure very quickly, while the Priest needs to assemble very specific cards to actually go proactive in its game plan.
Well, Kolento has Corridor Creeper. Gonna look for some other better plays, though. I mean, Firefly is okay, not necessarily the best. Of course, what you really want is Prince Keliseth. That Kolento with a full mulligan. Just doesn't like anything going on there.
I think that in this particular matchup, Corridor Creeper is not as powerful as it is in some others, simply because you don't have that many exchanges. Did SamuelTsao just mulliganed Raza?
Yeah, I did a double take.
Very surprised by that decision. Raza is obviously one of the incredibly important cards in this deck in general, though it is less crucial in this matchup in terms of you just get to Raza Anduin and win. But still, just playing Raza on turn 5 and giving you a free hero power to keep yourself alive for the rest of the game is extremely potent in any aggressive match.
Yes, absolutely, because you just basically stall the game long enough for you to actually turn the tides and win, or even fatigue the rogue of resources. So SamuelTsao opting to get earlier board presence of some capacity. He got the Kazakis, and that can also be a pretty big MVP play.
Kolento is in charge in the early game. Oh, well, there's Raza.
There you go. No harm,
Like,
no
no,
foul.
really.
Trust me, you need me this game.
SamuelTsao is more known for playing aggressive decks than he is for playing more controlling decks. He did say that he practiced a bit with Raza Priest, but he tested a bit with Tom, as both of them are from Taiwan, and Tom specifically said that he feels like SamuelTsao is very strong at playing aggressive decks, and this is the one really like non-aggressive deck in his lineup.
It's true. It's definitely on the more controlling side. Some people peg it as a combo hybrid. But, I mean, SamuelTsao has some of the important pieces. Kazakis and, of course, Raza working as mulligan intended. You throw it away and you draw it. First card. So Kolento has kind of a slower hand, you know? He doesn't really have the power spikes with Southsea Captain early on. But he does have the ability to coin out Elven Minstrel and potentially just get a lot of gas and play slow. One of the things that people don't really think about with Tempo Rogue is they also can play a long game because of Elven Minstrel. It adds a significant amount of draw. People look at Ancient of Lore as a really powerful tool for the combo druid, which was primarily tempo-oriented with a combo finish. And in a lot of ways, it's very similar to Rogue, too. Rogue has a lot of tempo early on and has burst combo potential at the very finish. And you kind of compare that, you're like, wow, you can get that for 4 mana with Elven Minstrel.
Yeah, Elven Minstrel really changed the dynamic that a lot of control decks have to play against Rogue. It used to be that you could often just go toe-to-toe with them 1-for-1 or 2-for-1 them with your removal spells, just run them out of threats. That's not really realistic anymore with the presence of Elven Minstrel because they have that ability to reload quite easily.
However, with double Bone Mare, I mean, I wonder if Kolento wants to save this coin now. Maybe perhaps curve better and then save for the double Bone Mare activity. Seems like Elven Minstrel's still on his mind, though, and I can't blame him. Very powerful opportunity to plan out your plays. He picks up Prince Keleseth.
It is less powerful at this stage of the game once you've already drawn several cards, but is still quite potent if he's able to buff some key minions. He actually has, clearly already hit his patches, which is one of the most powerful interactions with Keleseth. But getting any of his larger minions out of range of Dragonfire Potion, for instance, can be quite strong. Well, actually, the Corridor Creepers are the ones that are most important for that, or the Bone Mares. And 3 of those are already in his hand.
Yeah, pretty much a lot of his top end he already has. SamuelTsao is just given more time. This is definitely a slow start to the Rogue versus the Priest, and I think if I'm the Priest, I have to be really careful to budget my resources, and this is the kind of battle that Rogue can play that we were talking about.
All right, well, Kazakis for SamuelTsao. And it's actually exactly what he wants here is kind of interesting, especially considering he has the Pyromancer in hand. Right. Which leads you to potentially want to take a 1-mana potion rather than a 5-mana potion.
He also has Lyra as well.
It's true.
It's interesting to see if he wants to utilize the cheaper potion, but Greater Potion ultimately has stronger AoE, more card draw, better effects for you to combat the board. Deal 5 damage. It's also very useful against a lot of Rogue's arsenal. Wow, this could be the longest I've ever seen someone say on the first menu.
Exactly. Like, which do I want? Okay, he is going for a 1. And the rope is burning.
No 2 damage AoE.
Oh, there it is. There's 2 damage AoE, and I think he took draw a card for the other mode.
Makes sense.
That's a Shadow Step.
Yeah.
Which with the Keleseth is an interesting decision point at this stage of the game, because once you get to the middle turns, the impact of buffing your future draws is lower because there are fewer of them.
Right.
Once your patches out of your deck, you don't have the immediate impact of any of those buffs. So exactly whether Kolento decides that he wants to use that particular interaction with Prince Keleseth and Shadow Step will be interesting to see.
Right. Because he has other minions that would be fantastic with Shadow Step. We're looking at Bone Mare as a potential way to add pressure and make the board difficult enough for Priest to remove and push the envelope to ultimately a victory.
And Kolento here needs to be thinking about, what does he expect that SamuelTsao took from that Kazakus potion? How much does he want to potentially play into an AOE if that is something that SamuelTsao picked? Specifically, the 5-cost AOE. Yeah, look, he's actually not even going to Shadow Step the Keleseth.
Love it.
He's Shadow Stepping the Elven Minstrel. I love this from Kolento. I think that this is definitely a very heads-up play, recognizing that it is more important that he has more resources rather than that he has the incremental buff in the future cards.
Yeah, I was thinking about the Bone Mares and even Keleseth, but Elven Minstrel drawing 2 more cards. Again, he can just go for the resource battle, force Priest to AoE, and then reload AoE again, and eventually, if Priest skips a beat, Rogue can pressure for the win because he has double Bone Mare.
Yeah. SamuelTsao has the Raza if he just wants to get that online immediately. The Kazakus potion can clear this board, though, so that has to be at least somewhat appealing to him here.
The potion doesn't even have to be used. Pyromancer and Potion of Madness.
It's true.
Just clears everything.
Pyromancer plus potion would clear as well.
Yeah.
And the Potion of Madness is clearly getting much worse as the game goes on.
Right, because the Keleseth has been buffed just enough so that way Potion of Madness might have almost no targets at this point. One thing that I feel like I'm starting to notice is that SamuelTsao seems pretty indecisive, and he's waiting for the last second to, and even then showing hesitation.
And that could be a problem in this deck specifically, because the animations, the amount of time that it takes in order to specifically physically execute each of the elements of your deck's combos can take a while.
Yeah.
So if you just take that long for each of these decisions, sometimes you just run into the rope.
Yeah, we talk about health or card draw as resources, but time is also sometimes a valuable resource. With high stakes like this, you can definitely panic. We've seen it happen before. Kolento starts extending into the board. Quarter Creeper number 1 hits.
Well, there is Dragonfire from SamuelTsao, which can clean this up. But that is Dragonfiring and giving your opponent, a free reign of the board with you having nothing in play.
Right. The Dragonfire Potion isn't even killing that much. It's killing 2 cards, which, 2 for 1 is, on paper, good value. But you want your big AoE, especially since you have 1 Dragonfire Potion in your deck. You want it to hit multiple cards, not just, well, I guess, more than 2 cards.
and also, the longer you go without getting Raza online, the less value you're getting from the free hero power. The earlier you manage to stick Raza, the more times you get that free hero power, and the more sort of opportunities later where you can potentially afford to not play removal and play a Raza do get smaller as time goes on. I do like the play of Raza here from SamuelTsao. I think it's pretty important to get that going immediately. And next turn is also his opponent's 6-mana turn, where being able to clear up the board with Dragonfire Potion is more important going into your opponent's turn making than possibly play Bone Mare rather than right now.
Well, Kolento's going to turn 7, which is not just Dragonfire Potion, but also Psychic Scream. That is often the big question in the minds of Rogue, and you can play around it to a certain extent because you have such a huge amount of cards in your hand that you can budget your resources just enough to pressure SamuelTsao here. The deckhand plus a single 2/1 should clear off Raza. What do you do with the remaining mana? Would you want to extend another Quarter Creeper as a 6/6? Or would you rather let that become cheaper and save it for a reload after your opponent uses AoE?
It's unclear. I think that it is a buffed creeper he has here, right? So it does potentially survive against a Dragonfire Potion. Just gonna Akanai and push.
I like this. So one of the things about Priest's removal is that in most cases tends to be very symmetrical.
Yes.
So if they commit to an AoE, they would have to kill off their own minions a lot of times. Because of the Serenade Chain Gang, Raza can't get its full value.
Right. Samuel here, I think, has to pull the trigger on Dragonfire Potion. The Kazakus Potion doesn't do nearly enough to put a dent to this board. The threat of Bone Mare is huge.
But the only thing about it is that it kind of plays directly into what Kolento wants, Wants him to use an AoE on a sizable but not significant board.
And this is really how Kolento has set up this game. I really think that the defining turn in terms of Kolento's approach to this was the Keleseth and Shadow Step by Minstrel turn.
Right.
Because he's just trying to set up sufficient threats and a big enough board that he just grinds SamuelTsao out of that removal.
Sam uses a Shadow Word Death. I wonder if that makes Kolento a little bit more bold, or perhaps still hold back against a potential turn 8 Shadow Reaper Anduin.
It's an interesting spot because Anduin has to be on your mind here if you decide to Bone Mare something up, especially when your opponent gets to keep a minion. If you were to Bone Mare, hit face, put SamuelTsao down to just 8 life, then the Shadow Reaper Anduin comes down and Sam's able to still keep the Akanai Soul Priest in play and push for his own threat. The thing about that, though, is that the Shadow Reaper Anduin, rather, would put SamuelTsao back up to 8, or rather up to 12 from there, or 13. One of those. Math's going on in my head.
Close enough.
One of those numbers.
Well, I mean, speaking of 12 or 13, Kolento's got
Yeah,
really close to leaving.
Right.
One off, actually, right now. So I think if he even hits face, I think he's okay with Shadow Reaper Anduin. Because then he just pressures and kills it for the win. That Leroy's 7 attack. That Saucy Deckhand is as 3 attack. So he's got 11 from hand. I mean, it's starting to get really close.
Right, and that's kind of where I was, going before my math brain shut down momentarily in there.
Yeah.
It was that even if Anduin comes down at this point, it's not necessarily going to do enough to actually get SamuelTsao out of this because Kolento still has so many of those resources in hand, and so many of those represent burst damage. Even if he just Leroy plus SI's next turn, if he could then Deckhand plus Bone Mare the following turn for more hasted burst.
SamTsao, I think he's going to swing for the fences at this point. Lyra and Radiant Elemental could do some pretty crazy things, but he's going to need an amazing string of 1-mana spells or less.
I think he needed to start. He didn't need to play the Radiant before he played the 0-cost spell.
That's true. But, there is this weird world where you can keep getting Binding Heals.
Psionic Probe.
Sure.
Interesting.
Anything that's
okay,
cheap.
Holy Smite.
But he needs to heal.
He's going to get Backstabber Shadow Step and Backstab because of the AoE.
No! That's awkward.
Puts him to 10, but that's not going to be enough.
Yeah, that's just lethal straight up. Kolento has the Leroy and the Saucy Deckhand. And that is going to do it. Fantastic mid-game spot here for Elven Minstrel to extend his range. And Kolento shuts down with another upset of Tempo Rogue over the Highlander Priest.
And I feel like Kolento really understood what he was trying to do at every phase of that game. He was just keeping the pressure on SamuelTsao, digging through his deck with the Elven Minstrel draws multiple times to find the extra resources to keep that pressure on.
Kolento is now evened up to series, taking a huge win in this best of 5. What's going to happen? We'll find out when we come back here at HCT Amsterdam. Kolento and SamuelTsao are tied at a gridlock, 1 game apiece. But I think the real series is about to begin. What's going to happen now that Kolento is able to take an unfavorable matchup? Because I was looking originally at the matchup spread, and it was looking a little bad for Kolento. That Zoo Warlock actually did a lot of work, still drawing a ban. He didn't change anything. Now we'll find out if SamuelTsao can do it against Kolento's Priest.
Yeah, and SamuelTsao's version of Tempo Rogue is a bit different from Kolento's. SamuelTsao actually has both copies of Cobalt Scalebane in his deck, which are quite strong against Priest specifically, thanks to the reliance on Dragon Fire Potion for mid-game board sweeps, as well as that Lich King we see there in his opening hand. Not something he's going to keep, but that is a potential very powerful late-game card that can give him a lot of resources. Oh, and there's Prince Keleseth in his opening hand.
Yeah, shiny golden Keleseth summoning the powers of the Dark Nether. As that is going to be quite a fearsome start. Double Vilespine Slayer and a Cobalt Scalebane. Those are some really insane, powerful tempo tools. One of the interesting questions here for SamuelTsao is whether he wants to play his Swashbuckler on turn 1, given that he has Keleseth in his hand, and not necessarily a turn 3 play. I expect he will not use his coin to coin out Keleseth here because he does have a bunch of 5s in his hand. You only get like 1 more draw that gets buffed by the Keleseth, and the 2 damage you get attacking isn't really that big of a deal compared to the speed at which you can deploy your other expensive cards in the future. Yeah, this is the debate over, do I want to play my Swashbuckler now, get my 1/1 patches, or wait until after Keleseth to ensure that patches is 2/2? Yeah, he's going to go hold on to it. This does run the risk that either his next draw or the draw after that are patches, which would mean that he ends up both losing the buff as well as ending up essentially missing out on a card draw. It's true. It only happens 1 out of... It happens only 1 out of 25 times,
It's
Tibbler.
so brutal. Well, it's 1 out of 25 the first time, and then there's the next draw.
1 out of 24.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So it is higher, but still unlikely. And, I mean, that is confirmation bias. That is bias. You're like, oh, I knew I should have played Swashbuckler.
God.
You know why? It's because he thought about it for too long. Got a snap call. Just pass immediately. Well, Curious Glimmerroot gives Kolento a Swashbuckler himself.
That's a great draw immediately after playing Keleseth, though. That may make up for it. The Serenite Chain Gang here.
Oh, I don't know. The fact is, Rogue is already kind of... it is really important to have resources because Priest's primary game plan is just to fatigue the resources if they can. But now that you've already drawn patches, you miss another draw.
I expect that SamuelTsao will just kill this Glimmerroot here, potentially just with hero power and his Keleseth playing the Swashbuckler. I don't think he wants to use coin here, given that he has double Vilespine plus the Scalebane, and using his coin to play a Serenite Chain Gang here ends up effectively stranding those for several turns. Wow, he is going to coin. Okay. Well, I think here he wants to just get as much pressure as he can right away, but this doesn't really give SamuelTsao particularly strong follow-up to this turn.
Yeah.
This Mass Dispel from Kolento actually looks pretty good here.
Yeah. Mass Dispel able to continue into Kolento's game plan of drawing cards, keeping his card count high. He picks up Circle of Healing.
He's got the Akanai too.
Yeah. That's a huge draw for him later on in this game because he didn't really have reliable AoE. Now he does.
Attacking into the 2/2 may look a little bit weird compared to attacking into a 2/3, but a Shadow Step on Keleseth, I think, may be on Kolento's mind here.
Yes.
All right.
Man.
We've got a new plan.
He can become Shadow Reaper Anduin if the game lasts long enough. No Raza, though, unfortunately.
What if this Raza in Kolento's hand gets Psychic Screamed? And
yeah, into the opponent's deck. That's how. That is a very
I'm gonna take it all.
Case. I can't even imagine. If you lose as a Highlander Priest because your opponent got Archbishop Benedictus, are you even really mad at that point? Because they became Shadow Reaper Anduin?
Kolento does have Raza online right away. And SamuelTsao, he used his coins. These Vilespines need to wait before they're going to have much of an impact.
Right.
Ooh, the Captain's a pretty nice draw. It can let the patches and the Swashbuckler potentially trade into this Raza. Does use potentially 5 life from SamuelTsao, though, and that's always kind of scary in this particular matchup.
Yeah, still a possibility, even just dropping the Scalebane and letting it stack damage onto any of the minions. You could kill off Raza, play Scalebane, buff the Swashbuckler, making it really difficult for removal. Dragonfire Potion obviously doesn't clear it. Shadow Word Death, is definitely not something that Priest always has because it's a one of. The big problem with SamuelTsao using that coin, though, is like you said, he strands his Vilepine Slayer, or he's forcing himself to keep patches and Quarter Creeper, maybe even longer than he wants to, so that way he can get combo activators. That is like a silver lining with patches a lot of the times. You can use it for early combos.
The patches here now means that his Vilepine Slayers are going to continue to be stranded until he has another cheap option.
Right. Although Quarter Creeper is significantly cheaper, and if Kolento cleared, that would mean that Quarter Creeper becomes free, and that is also a pretty big tempo swing. Might be enough. I mean, this damage on the board shouldn't exactly be ignored here by Kolento.
Yeah, this is 8 damage, so I could see Kolento deciding he wants to pull the trigger on Akanai Circle.
Yeah, the Akanai Circle is also empowered by the Powered Shield, so a dagger hit doesn't kill off the Akanai Circle. Right. That might be really valuable here for Kolento.
Gonna go burgling, though. All right.
Interesting. Bladed Cultist. 1 mana, 2/3. Not exactly the most powerful thing in this position.
Going for a 5 mana potion with this Kazakus. Looking primarily, I think, for AoE draw.
You can make a case for a lot of these. Summoning 5/5 is the best tempo. Mystic Wool is great if your opponent has like a single Scalebane on the board. And even Ice Cap has arguments if you want to stall for better Akanai Soul Priest.
Ice Cap is often very underrated against aggressive decks.
Yeah.
Just to buy time.
Kolento not opting to play the Bladed Cultist, I think, because he's convinced he wants to AoE next turn. And most likely won't need that extra 2 damage on board because SamuelTsao does not have access to the Bone Marrow on 6 mana.
And now SamuelTsao needs to try to play around the possibilities of that potion. He does have the ability to potentially play a Quarter Creeper if he wants to trade some things. He could even potentially trade and play Creeper and the Cobalt Scalebane.
Yeah, but this is scary because now you add another variable into the mix with Kazakus Potion as an AoE source. Before, you're fighting the normal ones. Dragonfire Potion, Psychic Scream, Akanai Circle. Now you add yet another potential threat. I'm not sure if I want to necessarily quote all in with that. These are some tough turns from SamuelTsao. Kolento's so imposing with that Kazakus Potion.
All right, well, will be the Scalebane, which does give SamuelTsao a board that is resilient to Dragonfire, as well as to a 4 damage potion by itself. At least in terms of leaving something left over.
Right.
But there is, if Kolento wants to, he has the option to use the 4 damage AoE plus the Spirit Lash to clear everything.
I mean, he has Spirit Lash with Provivalent also. It's just like a nuke of the board plus basically Reno Jackson type effect.
That's always terrifying.
Yeah.
Though that effect is much less imposing against Tempo Rogue, which typically has large minions in the mid to late stages of the game.
They're dealing like 15 to 20 damage anyways. In this case, looks like Kolento just wants to clear the board and go for the safe play. Can't blame him.
Yep, Akanai Circle will clear along with the hero power, free. And then boom, Bladed Cultist.
Yeah, this is what it waited for. And that 2/3 is not irrelevant either.
It's not.
Might be able to give an extra push of damage to clear the board and you don't have to use your Kazakus Potion.
One thing that's worth noting in terms of the way that this game is playing out, compared to the last one, SamuelTsao's kind of running low on cards. He's kind of running low on meaningful threats, and a big part of that is the fact that Kolento had the double Elven Minstrel thanks to the Shadow Step. SamuelTsao's only playing 1 Elven Minstrel in his deck, and we see just how different the texture of the player's hands are at this stage of the game where SamuelTsao has got to be conservative with all of his threats because he only has so many of them, whereas Kolento was just able to keep the pressure on very effectively.
Shadow of Death can answer this quarter creeper. And that'll give Kolento a little bit more stall that he doesn't have to panic very much because, you know, Rogue is still not even that threatening. He's at 21 life.
If he really wanted to, he could bump the Belated Cultist and use the Kazakus Potion AoE to clear both.
Do we see what was the Kazakus Potion actually?
I believe it is a 4 damage to all, and I'm actually not certain whether it was the 5/5 for the first mode.
It is summon of
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay, yeah.
I wasn't 100%, but that was what I thought he took.
Kolento understands that Rogue needs to have some board for a Bone Mirror. SamuelTsao has the second Vile Spine Slayer. And hey, you know, kind of now the 2 AoEs have been used, Air Knight Chain Gang is looking good for the next turn as well. I mean, SamuelTsao can still do this. I feel like he's just like one Bone Mirror away and Kolento can't answer, and then all of a sudden we were laughing about how Rogue can win from this position, and then it just steals one.
Oh, he absolutely still is in the game. Yeah, but Kolento is just assembling more resources. Now both of the Vile Spines are gone, which means that Prophet Valen is a very real threat.
Right, and Lyra is also a threat too, so if you can even remove Lyra, then you have to remove Prophet Valen. Oh my goodness!
Ooh, and with both of the Vile Spines gone, 10 health is not something SamuelTsao has the tools to remove.
Yeah, Lyra, the value queen. Or entity, maybe it's just, you know, genderless, the Sunshine.
I can never really tell.
Yeah.
Whether the voice sounds masculine or feminine to me. I don't know.
It's very progressive.
Yeah.
At this point, your strongest minion is either a big buff Lane Cleave or Archbishop Benedictus. This is desperate times here for SamuelTsao. Oh man.
I think we're just Benedictusing and hoping that we get the better cards in Kolento's deck at this point, the more powerful late game stuff. But no, in all seriousness, I do think that the way that this game has played out really showcases the importance of Elven Minstrel in this kind of matchup, because we saw just how powerful it was for Kolento in this very same matchup just last game. SamuelTsao, with only the single copy, is, you know, just kind of being ground out of his resources.
Yeah, compound by the fact that patch is drawn, not helpful whatsoever.
Trying to get that +1/+1 on the patches ended up costing SamuelTsao pretty dearly in this game.
Would you go for a big Van Cleave here? Maybe just add
even
extra
bigger
stats?
I don't think so. You haven't seen the 0-cost silence out of Kolento's deck or death. Oh, and he just drew the 0-cost silence. Oh! Now I want Kolento to play it.
You can get another Archbishop Benedictus.
But it'll turn off his Anduin.
Yes.
There's like duplicates out of SamuelTsao's deck. But I want it to happen. I want it.
Yeah, that's right.
Ooh.
Well, I mean, Ross has already been played, so Shadow Reaver Anduin doesn't really matter if you have duplicates or not. He could have Bone Mirror in his deck now.
Whoa, that was a lot of animation. Oh, I was like, what even happened there? The animation. Yeah, I guess he has nothing left that cares about having duplicates. He could just Benedictus here. It would make him much less likely to draw his Anduin.
Yeah.
But ooh,
spell stone. I mean, at this point, it's just, you know, kind of like it's what, as Kibler says, it's an embarrassment of riches. There's just nothing really that Kolento can really want to have in his hand that wouldn't be already amazing.
Shadow Steps.
Wow.
I've literally never seen Shadow Madness, Shadow Step. It sounds like they should work together very well because they're both shadow cards.
Hey, when life gives you lemons.
There is the risk. Okay, here we go. SamuelTsao decides, I don't want to do anything more with this Lyra. And Kolento actually had 10 cards in hand. He could have burned his Anduin, but it didn't matter. He just had this value machine online. And yeah, takes down the game to take the lead in the match.
And that, boys and girls, is why we kill Lyra the Sun Shard immediately, of the utmost importance. Kolento up 2-1 as he dominates Game 3. And a little look at him smiling too, uncharacteristic. Usually he's really big on Poker Face, as Kolento one of the most famous, if not the most famous player in Hearthstone, takes game 3. Kolento made an appearance in 2014, exited in the round of 8 to Kranich, as he has unfinished business. But in the meantime, look at his accolades. 7 first-place finishes in premier events, 6 second-place finishes. He's been in the finals 13 times, and more top 16 finishes than almost anyone else in Hearthstone. And of course, everyone knows his ladder accolades, and you also know about his deck innovations and his deck lists.
What I love the most about Kolento is really just the disdain he has for so many things. We just saw that,
primarily conversation.
Why are you asking me this question? Yeah. This question is ridiculous.
Yeah. I think that was the most common answer when we had him in an interview.
It pretty much was.
Yeah. Let's go to Jade Druid versus Tempo Rogue. Now, I'm really curious to see how this Jade Druid, with all of its new tools and refinement, came to play. Over the past week, it's really seen a lot of innovations. People really wrote off Jade Druid for a little bit of time because it was all about Priest and Warlock for a bit, but Jade Druid's still quite the fearsome deck, and for good reason. I mean, it hasn't really come down to the Jade Idols. It's actually about more Jade Druid's defensive tools, which are surprisingly strong.
Yeah, and the Jade Druid defensive tools are so powerful because it leads the Jade Druid's incredibly strong endgame. And right now, SamuelTsao is giving Kolento a lot of time because this is a very slow draw from his rogue.
And you know, it's a combination of Kolento also hitting the ideal turn 2 and 3. Jade Blossom into Oaken Summons, and he guarantees that he'll hit the Ironwood Golem because he has Fandral in his hand.
And SamuelTsao here still with pretty weak turn. He has the ability to just play an SI agent with no combo if he wants to just get the body down. Or just kill off this Jade Golem and re-dagger. He'd much rather be attacking with some number of pirates or other small minions at this point.
Yeah, a lot of people look at this play if they're newer to Hearthstone and think, why would you not want to save the SI7 for the 2 damage? But it's so important for you to get the board control and keep getting that damage. You're missing 3 every turn as opposed to saving for the 2.
Yeah, the Oaken Summons guaranteed that Iron Golem that you mentioned. Because he has SI Agent in play, he can actually remove this with Backstab and trade in the SI Agent. If he just had Backstab into SI Agent, he'd be a damage short.
Yeah, and with double Backstab, allowing him to combo with the Biospine Slayer too, he's more likely to part ways with that. You have seen Rogue players in the past hold on to the Backstab for the following turn for that big tempo swing.
SamuelTsao still taking his time.
Yeah. If not to at least think over the options, at least to feign that you have more than what your hand is leading you to believe. Make Kolento read into your cards.
He's not backstabbing here. He may be looking to use Vilespine Slayer the following turn. Well, now he's definitely giving away that there's a backstab in his hand when you spend all your mana and then
hover over it.
He does decide to take down the Ironwood Golem. Kolento would have loved to have had that Spellstone in his hand last turn when he gained that armor.
Right.
And able to upgrade it. But the Jade Idol here, gonna make it 2-2. And you know, a lot of people are like, well, why didn't you play Jade Idol first and shuffle, or play Fandral first and shuffle it into your deck? Kolento doesn't want to draw Jade Idols right now. He wants to draw his powerful defensive tools like the Spreading Plagues, like Jade Behemoth. That will be much more impactful than just drawing a 1-cost 3/3.
Right. Here comes the Biospine Slayer, and this is the power turns here from SamuelTsao. He's got the Biospine into Quarter Creeper into Bone Mare. If Kolento can survive this, that'll be the game. But SamuelTsao has quite the combos coming up here.
Aya, though, a lot of power on the board that is not easy for SamuelTsao to deal with.
Patches has not been drawn yet, so SamuelTsao has Southsea Captain, SI, and Quarter Creeper available this turn. And
yeah, that's a big turn. That is a big turn.
When it starts getting to be a little much, it's very difficult for Druid to answer everything in time for the Bone Mare.
Yeah, SamuelTsao can play every non-Bone Mare card in his hand this turn. It doesn't push a ton of damage necessarily.
You can, I think, because the Aya is complicated to trade into, you could perhaps leave the Aya up and then pressure with everything else.
Yeah, I can actually just Captain and Dagger here.
Okay, that works as well.
Oh, gonna go ahead and SI.
This guy's toast.
Okay, I think he actually wants to clear off the 4-4 with these? No, he's gonna keep going face. All right.
Huh.
Kind of interesting sequence there.
Yeah. I wonder what he's afraid of, because at that point, I feel like I'd just rather push the 4 damage and start threatening, because I'm looking forward to a Bone Mare turn. Perhaps he's thinking about Aya's trade into the 5/5. A lot of times you're worried about Aya being able to pick up value trades, and then you fall behind on the board. But Kolento doesn't really have that such luxuries. He does have fans, though. A lot of people making the Kolento signs out there in the fans.
I think I've mostly seen Kolento fun. Yeah, I think.
Okay, now we know why. It's because they voted for Kolento for facts. I did too. So I have my stake in this as well.
All right, Cycles of Wrath on the damaged Vile Spine Slayer. Finds himself Wild Growth.
Yeah, he has the ability to upgrade the Spellstone twice over with the branching paths. Because each action is chosen independently, you can upgrade the Spellstone accordingly.
Yeah, I think that might be happening here. Oh, no, he's drawing a card. Okay, so he wanted 1 card and to be able to remove the 3/3. If he had double upgraded it, he would have been able to kill the Corridor Creeper.
Oh,
Ooh,
man.
Lich King is a big one.
Yeah, we're talking about the curves, and I mean, SamuelTsao had a very slow start, but his mid game is almost as good as it gets when you have, the Bone Mare into the Lich King. SamuelTsao taking a second to look away from his monitor.
Fixing his mouse movement.
Probably writing in his diary, "Dear diary, Bone Mare is really, really good." This is quite the board to deal with if you're Kolento.
But Kolento's a lot of life, to be fair. He's still at 25 here,
Yeah.
and he has Malfurion. He can play Malfurion and make 2 poisonous spiders against these 2 large minions on the board.
You're right.
And that's pretty scary. That forces SamuelTsao to deal with these in some way. He's already used both backstabs. Yeah, poisonous spiders it is for Kolento here.
That's right. So in one way or another, it looks like this a Corridor Creeper might go down.
And this shuts down the Lich King play of this turn. It means that SamuelTsao cannot make his strongest play this turn, or else it will just be destroyed by spiders. He can play Captain, get the 2 power patches out of his deck, kill one of these immediately, and then potentially play the Chain Gang.
Yes, that seems to be the best course of action here, and then get ahead of the trade perhaps. Killing the 1/2 with the Bone Mare instead of letting the Corridor Creeper die.
And I could even see SamuelTsao choosing not to play Serenite Chain Gang in order to just have very large minions in play against the threat of a Spreading Plague shutting everything down. But it looks like he just wants to keep the pressure on. Kolento has not played a Spreading Plague to this point. He's had a couple opportunities.
It's true.
He's debating potentially holding it. Also against the Malfurion hero power, this gives nothing to attack into except for a 9/9.
Can this go on?
Well, more wild growth here for Kolento. Seems to be plaguing him all series long.
This is a really awkward collection of cards in his hand. He can't play 2 things other than a wild growth and something, and he's at 9 mana, so you certainly don't want to be wild growthing right now to no effect. He could play the Oaken Summons plus Tyrant, but that doesn't answer anything immediately.
Right. There is the threat of dying as well if he plays Jade
Right.
Behemoth. If his opponent has like Leroy and Shadow Step, he could be dead. But this is where the Death Knight hero power is very relevant. You know, take down your opponent's board, chip it away. SamuelTsao still has the window. It's going to stay open for a turn or two. Another Bone Mare!
Oh dear, that is it's a lot of threat right away. He can Bone Mare up the Chain Gang, eat the Behemoth, push 13 to the face.
Yeah, I mean, people who looked at the opening hands might have already said that Kolento would have won the game and the series. But, you know, it ain't over till it's over, and SamuelTsao had some really powerful mid-game, and Kolento's largely fizzled after his early start.
Yeah, Kolento didn't really get an opportunity to ramp much after that, the Jade Blossom. He hasn't found a Spreading Plague, he hasn't found an Infestation yet, and SamuelTsao has had all of the big threats, everything to really keep Kolento on the back foot.
Oof, that is a ton of damage. I don't even know what Kolento can really draw here. Because, I mean, I think he might just be dead to an Ultimate Infestation.
He could draw Spreading Plague to buy himself some time. Nourish is not going to cut it here.
Oaken Summons pulls out the Ironwood Golem.
It's
number
true.
2.
Yeah, he can Oaken Summons, gain 6, go to 12, pull out a Golem, which can protect him for 6 damage. Then armor up, go to 15, which does keep him alive just barely against this board.
He could also fish for a swipe with the Wild Growth as well. So he could swipe, clear off one of the minions, and then play Oaken Summons. I think you go to Oaken Summons first, so that way you don't draw the Ironwood Golem. That would be a disaster. Like Kolento is opting just to open up his opportunities first. He's risking the Ironwood Golem draw. Oh, interesting.
Well, he can hero power to upgrade the Spellstone, which can and he can then kill. He can actually upgrade twice.
Yes, that
And he
becomes
can kill the 9/9.
Yeah.
He actually only needs to upgrade once to kill the 9/9, but if he upgrades twice, he can actually kill the Bone Mare and kill the 6/4 by attacking into it. Yeah. Okay, this buys him some time.
Yeah, that Spellstone was actually a really good draw. I didn't think about that.
Well, no ability to combo the Vile Spine Slayer, but can push 4 damage, play a Lich King.
Yeah, the pressure is still on. Because, I mean, how does Kolento deal with the 8/8 now?
And Lich King, one of the reasons that you play that in Tempo Rogue is for this exact sort of situation. You're playing against a deck that has a difficult time dealing with a big minion. And even if Kolento finds Ultimate Infestation, it doesn't kill either of the big minions, and the Lich King just keeps generating resources.
Branching Pass is a good stall card. But he's staring at, what, 21 damage on board?
Yeah. Got to draw with Nourish.
Yeah. It's a free Arcane
Find
Tyrant, at
something.
least.
Spreading Plague is powerful, but not enough to stop this right now.
Yeah.
Doesn't have the mana either.
Jade Druid still stays alive, I think, with this.
He does.
Actually.
He does stay alive.
Oh my goodness.
He's up to 23.
What a weird world where Druid is able to gain more armor, similar to a Control Warrior at this point.
And at this point, SamuelTsao has to be wary of developing much more on this board because the threat of Spreading Plague blocking off his minions is pretty real. Like, for instance, Swashbuckler here just effectively gives his opponent a 1/5. He could find a swipe to end the game right now.
Right, he could find damage from Druid's arsenal.
He just needs an AoE, a buff of some kind.
Yep, buffs, direct damage, and there's a lot. There's like Starfall, or Starfire and Swipe.
Death Grip actually...
There's only one minion
I was
left.
going to say, does it get... I guess the Behemoth.
There's only one card remaining.
That's a taunt that Kolento doesn't get.
Too soon.
Yeah, and here, the point of this from SamuelTsao is to consolidate his board and weaken Spreading Plague. He wants to ensure that a Spreading Plague from Kolento only answers these for a turn. It doesn't ultimately end up giving him any way to actually come back against these minions. I mean, look at this now. The ultimate infestation kills nothing, leaves Kolento dead. Spreading Plague just buys a turn.
Which looks like Kolento's forced to do. If he was trying to find some way back in this game, but now, you know, he doesn't even have the Jade plan to rely upon, because this Jade Idol would need to shuffle in order to be able to go infinite.
And I really, really like that play from SamuelTsao, deciding to hold on to Swashbuckler, leave himself in a position where, at best, Spreading Plague buys just a single attack. And Kolento essentially just needs to keep Spreading Plaguing every turn or die to these threats. And all the while, Lich King is generating more and more cards for Samuel.
Spreading Plague is a must in order to survive. Jade Idol for tempo.
Although it's not going to matter, because the Vile Spine Slayer here is going to punch through one of these scarabs, and that opens up Kolento's face to the giant creeper.
And we are going to go to a game 5 here. Kolento not able to get another upset here with the Jade Druid, but he's lined up Jade Druid up against the Highlander Priest. And we're going to see a photo finish here to wrap up our last of the inaugural matches of groups.
And Samuel has performed very, very well in these aggressive decks. We talked to Tom60229, who he tested with for this tournament, who said Samuel pilots these aggressive decks extremely well. The Highlander Priest, though, is more of a question mark.
That's right. I mean, Samuel looked like he was pretty indecisive at certain points, and you know, if you go back and evaluate plays, there could have been decisions made differently, even today, as we get ready to move on deeper into the World Championships. If you missed a previous series from Group B, Muzzy faced off against SamuelTsao, and Muzzy was able to take it off. We'll see who meets him in the winner's match of Group B at the end of today.
And one more game between these two players to decide that. And as you mentioned, it will be that Jade Druid from Kolento against the Highlander Priest from SamuelTsao. And this is a matchup that there's a lot of controversy surrounding, in terms of just who thinks which deck is advantaged.
Right. I mean, Jade Druid has gone through some changes. Highlander Priest has gone through some changes. Some players are doing crazy long sets. Best of 11s, best of 19, best of 172. I'm not even sure anymore. And it goes both ways. Some people say Raza Priest has a lot of game against Jade Druid, but people are saying Jade still beat the Priests if you just armor up and stay out of range of the burst.
If you look at the data available online through our friends at HS Replay, it looks like the Jade Druid is significantly favored. However, that's ladder data, where players don't necessarily have full information about what their opponent's deck is and is trying to do.
Right.
And having open deck lists and knowing, oh, well, he has this huge armor package, it means that I can't rely on the normal just Raza and win burn plan. I have to fight for the board and get in minion damage.
Right.
That changes the way that you play.
Yes. It's very interesting, because no one really considered Jade Druid as, you know, a very fatigue style, where you're just trying to armor up and get out of range of the burst. But there is a certain threshold of how much damage this deck can do. And, you know, Kolento already off to a pretty good start. He got that wild growth on 2, and SamuelTsao does not have any of his really big, powerful swing cards yet.
One of the important cards in terms of opening up that range of damage your deck is capable of is that Lyra we see in SamuelTsao's hand. We've actually seen a shift back and forth between Lyra and Gadgetzed Auctioneer. Auctioneer was very popular in the Summer Championships because players were just looking to assemble their combo. But if people are trying to out-armor you, the extra cards from outside your deck that Lyra gives you can give you that extra push.
Kolento draws both of his Ironwood Golems. It's not what you really want to see. It's a little bit unfortunate there. Ooh, SamuelTsao picks up the Raza change. Now it's starting to get spicy.
And the play of the Acolyte there from Samuel may have seemed a little strange compared to a Curious Glimmerroot, which can do more damage by attacking. But it does mean that Samuel is trying to strand Jade cards in Kolento's hand. If Kolento were to play a Jade Blossom, a Jade Idol into the Acolyte, it means a free draw for Samuel, whereas the Curious Glimmerroot doesn't give that additional resource boost in that instance.
Yeah. And I like the greed from Kolento too. Fandral, actually surprising, doesn't get as much value as you used to might be seen. Branching Pass, for example, the interaction does not work with being able to choose all of the options. Instead, he set up for that possibility of SamuelTsao not answering it, and then getting both Nourish options of drawing 3 and getting 2 crystals.
Yeah, Fair Nourish, still really good. Extremely powerful. And with only a single copy of Shadow Pain in the Highlander Priest decks, there's a pretty decent chance they don't have it because it's not a card they mulligan for.
Well, Branching Pass is one of those really powerful armor cards like we were mentioning too. And if he's planning on using Branching Pass for armor, then he needs to use this Nourish for card draw. A lot of times, you're trying to budget your hand as a Jade Druid, like, oh, I have so many things I can draw cards. Maybe I use Nourish to get the crystals out of the way. But playing into the win condition of, I need to make sure that Priest can't get enough board to damage me, and I need to get my life total to the point where I'm out of range of a lot of Shadow Reaper Anduin shenanigans.
SamuelTsao, he has that Raza, which is obviously a great play any point with the Kazakus Priest deck. It does potentially allow him to set up a Cleric Spirit Lash turn next turn as well, which can clear off an Ironwood Golem. That's what it is.
Ooh. So now Kolento can actually just gain the armor.
Oh yeah, this is okay. And yeah, this is, as we mentioned, a matchup in which the plan for the Druid in many cases is just armor up, armor up, armor up. And yeah, the double loot the chest here allows him to just take out Raza with a 1-cost Spellstone, as well as pick off this Acolyte with only a single card left.
Absolutely. Now at 41 life, the big thing will be whether or not either player draws their Death Knights now. We know that Raza and Anduin, of course, do fantastic against pretty much anything in Hearthstone, but the Malfurion and the Pestilent gaining 3 armor every turn is also going to be crucial. A lot of combo cards here coming to the hand for SamuelTsao. I'm not sure how much I like playing Aconite just straight up onto the board. At the same time, Curious Glimmerroot's nothing to write home about either. It gets eaten up directly just by the Ironwood Golem. So maybe it might be the Aconite Soul Priest just to grab tempo. You're not going to be oftentimes using the Aconite Soul Priest with a Circle of Healing play.
Right.
So having just a 3/5 and eliminating the board seems to be a slightly better option, perhaps.
That looks like what he's going to go for here. And at this point, given that Kolento's already gained a bunch of armor and clearly is on that plan, Samuel needs to be looking to try to expand his potential damage range. Some of that is, as you mentioned, that Lyra in his hand. Some of it is just trying to get through with minion damage. And a big part of how a lot of decks want to play against Jade Druid with Kazakus is just trying to re-summon big boards.
Oh my goodness.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, the killer, but the Death Knight was just being drawn here by Kolento. So if he saves the coin, he can start armoring up as soon as next turn. And that is going to be very hard for SamuelTsao to fight back. Even if he has Shadow Reaper Anduin now on curve, he has to make sure that Kolento doesn't run away with just the life gain, because the second Branching Pass was also picked up. Now, you mentioned Lyra the Sunshard, really important too. So the longer SamuelTsao can hold on to this and gather resources for that, that'll be his way for fighting back. But that's, even again, assuming Anduin within the next 2 or 3 draws. Kolento saves the Spellstone. Gonna probably most likely use it for the Malfurion combo next turn.
Samuel can look with his Glimmerroot, see what he finds. If he does find, say, Wrath, he could potentially cycle the Wrath hero power and get some damage to the face, which is pretty important here.
Right.
Similarly, he could find a Spellstone, since Glimmerroot doesn't work like Thoughtsteel, it can find anything that started the game in the deck. So there's a number of potential hits off of the Glimmerroot here that can allow him to start pushing minion damage, which, as I mentioned earlier, is very important to overcome all the armor gain from the Druid.
Interesting. SamuelTsao hovered over Spirit Lash. I was kind of thinking about saving Spirit Lash because you have Lyra in the hand.
Yeah, Spirit Lash, you also have Cleric, and it's one of the ways that you can potentially activate Cleric. All right, he just wants to push for some of that damage. Interesting.
Throw in the Curious Glimmerroot.
Ooh, Nourish.
Wow.
Oh, dear. That is an excellent pickup for SamuelTsao. We mentioned how important those resources are. That's a draw 3. And now this is an interesting decision to play the Pyromancer as well, because it does put SamuelTsao in a position that playing spells can kill his own minions, which can be a little bit awkward if he is trying to draw cards with Nourish or to potentially combo with Lyra. It's also something that he can use to combo with the Northshire Cleric and potentially draw a lot of cards.
Yeah, and I think that's what Kolento may have been saving the Spellstone for. The possibility that Lyra comes onto the board, he needs a way to answer it definitively. But this also is kind of annoying to deal with.
The circle of life is over.
Well, it is Scarab time, and time to get the first Jade of the game on turn 8. And there's the circle.
Yeah, very inconvenient because not only does it wipe his board, but the Northshire Cleric won't be able to get any of the value off of it immediately. So there is some downside of holding on to this Arcanine Soul Priest as long as SamuelTsao has.
Well, some of it is also just the Pyromancer in play. The inability to trigger and just get that draw potentially with Circle of Healing.
Right. But now with the Nourish, it almost doesn't really matter. Oh, there actually is a way. He can hero power his own Arcanine Soul
could.
Priest and then
true.
Circle of Healing.
Yeah, he could attack in.
Draw 5 cards.
Yeah.
Which puts him over.
Well, he doesn't have the time to do much else with this animation. This is something we mentioned earlier about SamuelTsao.
Yeah.
Very deliberate player, but with these complicated decks that have a lot of significant animation time, you don't necessarily always have the opportunity to take that time.
Yeah. It does feel like a missed opportunity to draw more cards. You can even trade more minions to limit it so that way you don't overdraw. Because I think what matters more than anything is the card draw at this point. Because if your Death Knight is in the bottom 5, you will have a lot more ways to go before you even have a chance of winning this game.
My thoughts are plagued.
Kolento wants to also hero power as much as he can. This is one of those scenarios very similar to the old Control Warrior versus Freeze Mage matchup, where the most commonly referred to as tank up, rank up. The more you hit the hero power button, the better you're off. Kolento's just gonna ramp up his Jades even more. Still taking his time. Knows that SamuelTsao doesn't have the Shadow Reaper Anduin, otherwise he would have played it already.
That Arcanine is just so awkward for SamuelTsao here, but he'd love to be able to draw a bunch of cards with the Cleric.
Yeah. Well, he still can. He just, again, has to do something slightly counterintuitive of hero powering his own Arcanine Soul Priest.
But he's down to just not really drawing that many cards at this point, too. Even if he does hero power his own guy, now there's not that many damage things in play. He doesn't have the Pyromancer anymore.
He still draws 3, if that's the case. And with his hand size, that seems appropriate. Drawing 3 put him down to the last 10 cards of his deck.
I think he's going for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's your best bet.
You gotta do this faster. The animation times for Cleric is very long.
Right.
I think he may run into the rope here.
Yeah, if he has Shadow Reaper Anduin, he has to play it immediately. He draws it off the very last card.
You have time to ping?
Ooh, I don't know.
No, he misses it. And we've been talking about this. That, you need to play faster with these animation times in particular. It can really put you in a rough spot. And we've been talking about Sam's deliberate play. It came back to haunt him there.
Now Kolento absolutely needs to start hero powering as much as he can to gain armor. But he also has a slight board dominance for the first time. It's all game, really. And maybe, perhaps, his willingness to ramp the Jades will start paying off as well. Kolento gonna dig deeper into his deck, wants to find more ways to shut things off from his opponent. If SamuelTsao ends up 2 damage off lethal, how heartbreaking would that be?
A little awkward.
Kolento recognizes the Curious Grimlu is not the threat, it's the fact of card draw and resources. He is at 46 right now, and SamuelTsao has a lot of burst. In fact, if he had a Radiant Elemental, I'd probably start thinking whether or not he had lethal. But it doesn't look like that's the case. Whew. That is a lot of bad minions and cards in your deck with the Psychic Scream.
Yeah, the Psychic Scream means that Kolento can now just draw Jade Golem, Scarab, a lot of very low impact cards when he'd love to just have a deck full of nothing but Jade Idols and armor gain effects. Not so likely now, thanks to that Psychic Scream from SamuelTsao.
On the plus side, Oaken Summons will not pull a minion.
It's true.
Yeah, he's got
Oaken Summons is online.
Yeah. It's not completely useless.
I had someone Psychic Scream me, and then I Oaken Summons and hit Recruit. Like, I just had like a 1/1. I was like, oh. And I wasn't, it was a Violet teacher student.
You hit the little apprentice.
Yeah. Exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, the damage from SamuelTsao, by the way, is adding up. He has the possibility of doing just 26 right now with Prophet Veil and Mind Blast plus Holy Smite. Like you mentioned, if he does find the Radiant Elemental, that can keep going up as he continues to add additional cheap spells to that. But again, Kolento's armoring up with the hero power, the branching paths he's still in his hand, can get him very much out of range of that burst. So I wouldn't be surprised to see SamuelTsao end up going the Lyra route, try and generate resources rather than go for big burst. Yep.
Kolento now at 55. But, I mean, most of his armor cards have been used. He has Ultimate Infestations for armor gain, but I don't really think much else exists outside of that.
Blessed be this funnel cake.
At this point, it's a full commit to the board. But it's not really about the board, really. Just get the damage in. I think those double swipes should clear off most of this.
Kolento needs to try to ensure that there's no way he ends up taking minion damage, because his goal really is to just exhaust SamuelTsao of resources, to ensure that there's no ability for SamuelTsao to just generate enough damage before he runs out of cards. That's why we see him maximizing his armor gain as much as possible.
Yep, and he's also saving his removal because he knows Lyra and Prophet Valen themselves are threats, and he needs a way to kill them.
And right now, the Lyra and Prophet Valen are certainly scary, because he has the double swipe, he has the Jasper Spellstone, but without all of that, one of those has a chance to live.
Death is eternal. My turn is not.
Well, there is the Radiant Elemental, which I imagine SamuelTsao will pair with Lyra rather than with the Prophet Valen at this point. Ooh,
yes.
Kazakus is big, because Kazakus is something that can generate additional damage very well for SamuelTsao by giving him board presence or big minions, just more things that he's going to force Kolento to have to deal with.
Yeah, adding demons to the hand can also be relevant. How much damage does SamuelTsao have right now with the Radiant Elemental?
I believe he has...
It's gotta be like high 30s at that point.
I believe it is 34, if my math serves me. Looks like he may just be going for the Dragonfire to force through some damage with this Priest of the Feast here, too. And play the Kazakus this turn. So clears off the board, lands the Kazakus, and is able to get some damage through with his minions.
You can go for a one-man potion for burst, but let's see what he draws. Draws 3 damage. That's what you want.
Also known as Pyroblast.
Yeah.
With Velen. Yeah, so the Kazakus Potion paired with Radiant Elemental and Velen, because it is a 0 mana doubled plus the hero power is just 10 mana or 10 damage for 1 card. So Pyroblast.
So 44? Because you said 34, right?
I believe
but you can hear power.
I believe that's so. The Velen Mind Blast is 20.
Right.
You add the Holy Smite, that's 26. The Radiant and the Binding Heal is 34. It's 44 damage.
46. Holy Smite doubles as well.
That's no. I'm adding 6 with that.
Holy Smite does 4, and then the hero powers.
Oh, it's 8. Yeah. No, you're totally right. My brain was adding. Yeah. So yeah, this may just be lethal next turn from SamuelTsao here. He has been able to assemble all of these pieces.
Jeez.
Kolento has armored up quite a bit.
That Priest of Peace getting in that extra damage was the difference maker.
It matters quite a bit. Every time you're able to connect with something that is non-spell, non-hero power damage, it's very important against this particular strategy.
Yeah. And Kolento's missed hero powers, even though he had Malfurion for several turns.
My turn is not.
And he just drew a Jade Golem.
And he drew a Jade Golem too. SamuelTsao has the damage. And Kolento's held onto this coin the entire time.
Oh, in the silence, that is more than enough.
Certainly going to be it. Radiant Elemental and Prophet Valen's going to clean up the rest. And not enough armor is going to stand between SamuelTsao and a winner's bracket match with Muzzy.
Kolento at 44. But all that armor, all that life, it is not enough. This is the power of this deck and why so many players respect it so much in this field.
He needed to land that Kazakus potion too, and that's why he knew it was the right choice. Instead of going for a huge greed value play with 10 mana. SamuelTsao taking off the headset, which acknowledges it. We have all of our winner finalists for each group stage, and SamuelTsao will meet Muzzy for a chance to go to the quarterfinals.
And we talked about how this is the young upstart in HCT versus the veteran, and we have had a second upset of the day as SamuelTsao moves on in the upper bracket.
Well played by SamuelTsao in the final moments, and even if there's moments of a little indecision costing him 2 damage with the hero power, I think what really matters is he understood the macro game plan of what he needed to do. And I mean, it was really close. I mean, that 2 damage almost mattered.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, SamuelTsao will play Muzzy. Kolento fans all here in the venue and around the world will see him face off against Jason So later today. But for now, the moment belongs to SamuelTsao from Taiwan, who's waiting with Raven.
Thanks a lot, Dan. Congratulations on the win. I just want to start off by asking, did you feel any extra nerves in going up against Kolento just because of how experienced he is as a big fan favorite?
在面对 Kolento 这样热门的选手，有没有心里很紧张？
我其实真的会感到很大压力。就是我刚上台的时候，跟他面对面的时候，就会开始感觉到压力，然后也会感觉有点紧张。
It's definitely very intimidating when you face a player like Kolento. I feel a lot of pressure when I step on stage and playing against him.
Okay, intimidating indeed. And now you've took the first win. Do you think you'll feel a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more comfortable? Because we saw a few moments where the rope was kind of pressuring you a little bit.
拿下首胜以后，会不会心里会更放松一点呢？特别是就是打了这么一个很紧张的比赛之后。
其实没有，因为还要再赢一场才能进8强嘛。而且其实刚刚我真的就是状况也不太好，然后只是运气好才赢的，所以之后我要再继续调整一下我的状况。
So this is just the first game. So I have a long way to go, and still have to win another game to advance out of the group stage. And I don't think I played particularly very well in this tournament, in this match. And I had some good draws, so they helped me out. But I need to still keep going.
Okay, and just finally, are you feeling confident against your next opponent, moving through the group? Now you've already got your first match under your belt.
然后拿下首胜以后，对下小组赛后面一位选手，有没有信心啊？
有，因为我针对他们排组，我跟他们已经练过很多次了，所以我应该可以拿下来。
I think I'm fairly confident. You know, I also talked to Tom about it, that I think my lineup is a bit favored against his. So I think I'm going to take it.
Okay, well, congratulations again. It was a big win for you, the first win for you in your group as well. So give it up again for Samuel.